Now, there's a couple other things that I skipped earlier. Do you know who Moab is? Moab, you guys would say? Moab is a story I skipped. This story happens back with Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah possibly down in here. Lot was spared Sodom and Gomorrah. What happened to Lot's wife? Lot's wife, she turns around, she looks, she turns into a pillar of salt, right? So now Lot doesn't have a wife. He's got 2 daughters. Did they have any children? No. So what happens is in the cave, they get their father drunk and they have sex with their father and they produce then. Do you know what Abba is? Abba means father. Moav, that's Abba right there. Moav means from father. The Moabites are from father. They're Lot's descendants from the daughter. That's what it means, from father. Okay, are the Moabites, is that a really cool title? From father. Not a cool title at all. Now, by the way, you know somebody who's famous in Moab because there's a book named after her. Ruth, the Moabitess, and are the Moabites going to be in the line of David? Is David's great-grandmother going to come, Ruth from Moab, and is Jesus Christ, the Moabites are going to be in that line. Okay, Ammon was the other one. The other daughter had sex with her father after she got him drunk too. And Ammon, has anybody ever heard of Ammon, Jordan? Till this day, the name Ammon or Ammon is still there. So one of Lot's descendants was here in Ammon, and the other one was here with Moab. When I was teaching, I taught for a decade in a maximum security prison in Indiana. There was a guy in that prison named Probo. Probo was one of the smartest guys I've ever taught in my life. He was an Indian dude, nobody messed with Probo in the prison, okay? Probo was in the Vietnam era. He was trained, basically there was a DMZ, a demilitarized zone. They dropped Probo on the other side of the demilitarized zone with no guns, only a knife in his hands. And he was trained to kill people. Why didn't they give him a gun? Because if you sounded a gun, they would know you were there. And so everything had to be secret. He had a knife in his hands, and he basically killed people on the other side of the DMZ. When he got back to America, what did they do? They put all sorts of medals on him that he was a great hero. One night, he was in a bar, and 2 guys jumped him. Is he the wrong guy to jump in a bar? 2 guys jumped him, and what did he do? Just instinctively, he just did his thing, and guess what? There's 2 dead guys next to him. And what happened to Probo? He gets put away for 35 years. Okay, now question, when Probo walked through the prison, did anybody mess with this guy? No. Everybody know who he was, they know what he did, and they know what he could do, and it was Mr. Probo, okay? All right, so anyways, this guy is pretty intimidating. I mean, he's an old biker kind of guy, big, you know. Anyways, he was in my Old Testament class. So I'm teaching Old Testament. No, I was teaching Old Testament nights. I teach during the day in college and go out there at night. And I'm watching Probo. He didn't take a stinking note in the class. And I'm thinking, Probo, he was an unbeliever, and he'd ask me all these questions trying to destroy the Bible and stuff. We got into it, it was all cool and stuff. So I looked at Probo, didn't take a note in the class. And I said, man, this first exam, I'm going to nail that dude, man. He's going to pay for it. He didn't take a note. He wasn't even paying attention. He took the test. He got a 98 on the first test, a 98. And so I just came to him. I said, Probo, what's the deal? You didn't take a note and stuff. How did you get a 98 on that test? And it turns out that he was trained. He had like a photographic ear. I mean, no, seriously, the guy could, anything I said, he could quote back. He could quote back what I said. I couldn't even remember what I said. He could quote it back word for word. This is the honest truth. And the guy he was like that. When we came to this passage about Lot getting his daughters drunk, the daughters getting the father drunk and then having sex with the father. Yeah, okay. Probo raises his hand back there, cocky old Probo, and he says, Professor, when you're drunk like that, you can't have sex like that. He said, this shows obviously an error in the Bible and stuff. I mean, obviously that can't be right. That doesn't happen like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm sorry, but the honest truth is I've never been drunk. And I was saying, holy cow, Hildebrandt, he's catching this one. I mean, what can you do when you're not drunk? I don't know. And he said, how do you argue against this guy's experience? So I'm thinking all these reasons in my head. My head's going back and forth. Usually I got a smart, whippy answer. You know, if you guys do it, I got a smart, whippy answer. I'm like totally stumped. It's like, this guy's telling me his experience. What do I do? Luckily for me, providentially for me, old Robert was down front. He was an elderly black man sitting down the front. He turns around, looks Probo straight in the face, and he says, Probo, that ain't right. He says, I done that. I said, all right. And the question, anyway, you say, that's the honest truth. Anyway, sometime before the course ends, if I forget, and I probably will, make me come back to Provo. There's a good end to that story and stuff. But anyway, so you get stumped on some of this stuff. So Moab and Ammon, two important things we'll get later on. Now, Jacob returns to Bethel. What happens here? In chapter 35, when he gets to Bethel, he comes back. This is 20 years later. He comes back to Bethel. And when he gets back there, first of all, he gets rid of all his foreign gods. What does that tell you about Jacob? He gets rid of his foreign gods. Was Jacob an idolater? Did he worship other gods? And so my guess is that Jacob does it like this. Well, Jehovah's kind of my God, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jehovah's my God. But I like Jehovah, but do I like these other gods too? Because you can never have too many gods, And, you might need some protection, these other stuff. So I think what you've got is Jehovah plus these other gods that Jacob's saying. He uses them for protection, it's like the added benefit. Jacob gets rid of his foreign gods. He's now back at Bethel. He's got to face the real God. And so in chapter 35, he rids himself of his pagan gods. God then comes and reiterates that his name will be changed from Jacob to Israel. And so there is a reiteration of this name change to he who struggles with God. This name Israel is reiterated there. And then what would you expect to be reiterated once again? As he comes back to God at Bethel, God reiterates the covenant to him. What is the covenant? The covenant is the promise. The promise of the what? The land, the seed would be multiplied, and they'd be a blessing to all nations. And so the covenant is reiterated to Jacob now as Jacob comes back to Bethel. Bethel, later on in Israel's history, will be a place of idolatry. It'll be a place where Israel leaves God off. And it's interesting how the name Bethel gets taken and goes after idolatry and stuff later on. We'll see that, and Jerusalem takes center stage. Rachel dies. We talked about that Rachel dies after he leaves Bethel. Rachel dies at Bethlehem on his way down to see his father Isaac. Rachel dies having Benjamin. And we said that was echoed in Jesus' birth, in the time of the slaying of the infants, and also in Jeremiah in the exile. So this Rachel's death gets exiled or echoed in Jeremiah in the exile, and then down to Jesus in the slaying of the infants. And so Bethel is going to be a significant place. Bethel is going to be a religious place for Israel. This is a place where they meet God at Bethel, the house of God. Now, Jacob and the 12 tribes. Now, first of all, before you copy this down, I do not want you to learn all 12 tribes of Israel. I want you to know 4 of them. You'll see right off which ones I want you to know. They'll be in yellow. First of all, let me just put them all up here. Leah has the bulk of the children. Reuben is the firstborn given. Reuben's the firstborn. But the 2 I want you to know is Levi. Why is Levi important? Levi becomes the priests, The Levites and priests, Moses and Aaron, come out of the tribe of Levi. So the priests and Levites will be out of the tribe of Levi. They will be the kind of holy tribe given to carry the tabernacle, to minister before the Lord. There'll also be Levitical cities later on. So Levi, very important tribe. The other tribe that's important is Judah. Now, why is Judah important? Because who will be from Judah? Jesus will be from there, but before Jesus, who? David. The kings of Israel, David, Solomon, Rehoboam, Hezekiah, Josiah, all the kings of the southern kingdom will come from Judah. So Judah will provide the kings as Levi will provide the priests, out of that. Now, with Rachel, you need to know both of Rachel's kids. Her firstborn was Joseph. Is Joseph going to be a really important character in Genesis? Yes. And her other son is Benjamin. Now, by the way, why is Benjamin important? That's exactly right. The first king of Israel will be from the tribe of Benjamin. His name will be Saul. But when I say Saul, who do you know in the New Testament that was named Saul? Paul. And guess what tribe Paul is from? He's also from the tribe of Benjamin. Was Paul the apostle named Saul probably after King Saul from the tribe of Benjamin? Yeah, Paul was from the tribe of Benjamin, probably named Saul after King Saul. So you get these. So those are the 4 that I want you to learn. Levi, Judah, Joseph, and Benjamin. Later on, the tribe of Joseph will split. Joseph will be the northern tribes. And Judah will be the southern tribes. The country's going to split north and south. Joseph will be in the north. Judah will be in the south. Joseph will actually split into Ephraim and Manasseh. His 2 kids will actually get an inheritance, both of his kids, Ephraim and Manasseh. So this is going to be the northern kingdom, and Judah will be the southern kingdom later on. So those are the 12 tribes of Israel, and those are really important. And to remember, there's one girl up there, her name is Dinah.